center off of Eckerly, and he just missed the net. O'Reilly with the shot. Far down, he scores!
Come from behind for a month. Now with the lead, they're getting a little wobbly. But a downfield, they won't get him! Wow! Edwards pulls up and buries a flag! Richardson tries, out for Robbie Ryan. Her three right on the money. Daniels takes his shot for Darby.
My great-grandfather was at Pearl Harbor, and a lot of my family has given up, has gone and fought in wars, and I really haven't done a damn thing as far as laying myself on the line like that, and so I have a great deal of respect for those that have and what the flag stands for.
And yes, there is Pat Tillman. Welcome into Friday's edition of Pitchfork Lunch. I am Michael Caratino at Diablo00 on X, the artist formerly known as the Twitter. As you guys all know, yes, you can see the show live there every day, Monday through Friday, as we dive into Sun Devil Nation. But yes, that was the late, great Pat Tillman. Sorry. Yes. So yes, it is the eve of Pat Tillman's run, and we are going to get into that. But yes, I am Mike Gutzner at Diablo00 on X. As you know, you can see the show live there. The artist formerly known as Twitter. See the show live there Monday through Friday, 12 to 1. My IG, Michael.Caratinudo.5. Yes, you can hook it up there as well. And also the YouTube channel, guys. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, as you can yes, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Go to the YouTube channel and subscribe. All you have to do is, you'd see my name, Michael Caratino. Go to YouTube, see my name, but it's at M as in Michael, V as in Victory, C as in Champ 005 at MVC 005 on YouTube, and subscribe. Because anything that may have missed, any shows, all the con reviews that you may have missed, you can go to um, you can go to um, YouTube, and you can watch all uh, binge watch all the old shows and catch up on the con reviews again. Coaches, players, analysts, insiders, alum, like it is all there on Pitchfork Lunch. And on a day, obviously, a day like this, pre the Pat Tillman Run Eve, you can again subscribe, see all. It is all there. Absolutely awesome. And yes, it is very, very awesome. So that being said, that being said, you need to subscribe to catch up. So yes, again, it's at Emma's and Michael Views and Victory Season Champ 005 at MVC 005 on YouTube, and subscribe away. Also, for those watching, you can let your friends know they can listen to Pitchfork Lunch on the greatest internet radio station on the web, the Casual Sports Radio Network. Again, it's at all you have to do is go to www.ksrnaz.com. Page will open up, click listen live, hit play, bam, Monday through Friday, there is Pitchfork Lunch. So that, again, in and of itself, absolutely awesome. Casual E inviting the Pitchfork Lunch brand in. So very stoked to be a part of it. Plus, you can stream it through your Bluetooth. You're driving around. I want you to watch. Don't watch and drive. You're Sun Devil fans, and God knows there's enough that happens on the road. So, yes, pay attention to the road, but stream it through your Bluetooth. And you're going to lunch. You're leaving work early, today, Friday. Maybe you're leaving work a little early for lunch, all that good stuff. Yeah, so it's one of those things where if you are driving, you can listen and get all caught up, stay in Sun Devil Nation, like I said. So just go to www.ksrnaz.com, click listen live, hit play, bam, got it going to your car. You get to lunch, you get to where you're going. You can still obviously keep listening, which is a great option of that, or you can watch on all the other avenues, like I said. But when you're there, you do need to subscribe to the Casual Sports Radio Network socials, because again, you want to be kept up. You want to keep up with the Suns, the Diamondbacks, the Cardinals, the Mercury. Casual E has you hooked up. And again, it's all there. So yes, no playoffs for the Suns as we're in this final stretch of the NBA regular season. The Cardinals, the draft is like 2 weeks away now. So they should do this, they should do that, they're going to do this, and who's drafting who, and stories coming out about who leaks a story because they want somebody and hoping they'll drop, and who knows. But nonetheless, Casual E has you hooked up with the Cardinals. So again, subscribe to their socials. Again, all you got to do is go to www.ksrnaz.com. Monday through Friday, 12 to 1, click listen live, hit play, and bam, Pitchfork Lunch, Sun Devil Nation in the KSRN family. So hook it up from there. But yes, it is the eve of Pat's run. I want to play that snippet for you guys. Again, those listening on KSRN, this is an interview that he did from September 12th, 2001. So obviously the day after 9/11. This is a snippet of the interview that he did. And yeah, you just, again, and I'll share the my Pat Tillman story. If you have any, hit me up in the comments. Again, hit me up in the comments, let me know. But yes, Pat Tillman, just a again, just a phenomenal human being. And just live life his way. When you hear others talk about him and remember him, and obviously closer family and friends, old teammates. It's yeah, it's this is no surprise. But yes, here is Pat Tillman, a snippet of the interview from September 12th, 2001, and just his train of thought.
My great grandfather was at Pearl Harbor, and a lot of my family has given up, has gone and fought in wars, and I really haven't done a damn thing as far as laying myself on the line like that. And so I have a great deal of respect for those that have and what the flag stands for.
Yeah, again, I mean that's it's till this day, it's 2025, so 20, 4 or 5 years later, you hear that and just how it echoes and how he, lived his life. And all the recruiting story that I was told, when Bruce Snyder, late great Bruce Snyder, head coach of the Sun Devils, when they were recruiting Pat Tillman, they were telling him that or having a conversation about redshirting him, and Tillman just kind of took issue with that from the way I was told, and I smile because and laugh. It's just one of those stories and quotes that you've heard, and when you hear it, you're like, wow. And I hadn't met him, and he said, well, you can do whatever you want, but I got things to do. So I plan on graduating in 4 years and doing what I'm doing. So they never ended up redshirting Tillman, and um yeah, I mean, just a 3 point. He had a 3.8 GPA and the phenomenal SID. Doug Tamro years ago when he did the interview was saying I couldn't believe he didn't have a 4.0 because that was just Pat Tillman. And but yeah, when he said to Bruce Snyder and the staff, like, you can do whatever the hell you want, but I'm going to graduate in 4 years. Yeah, he loved football, but there's things that he wants to do with his life, and he yeah, I mean, his time at ASU, like I said, I feel lucky enough to have been there, to have a friend that in the dorm that I lived in my dorm, shout out to the dorm days. She went to the same, she was from California, and they went to the same high school, and they knew people. And one day, I guess I was leaving and they were walking back. I was leaving the dorms and I see her, and she's like, hey, and she's like, oh. And so she introduced me, obviously knowing I was a broadcast major. I know I never really kept that shy from anybody. I'm sure you pitchfork launchers are surprised. But it was one of those things where she introduced me to him, and again, just obviously very, very personable, and talking a little football, and we were, just talking a little bit of obviously being at ASU and all that, and just again couldn't have been more engaging. And like I've said a few times throughout the years, and even on this show, talk to him, and then obviously it's a huge campus, as you know. There's a lot of people, so bumping into somebody, unless you're planning on meeting up with them, usually you're just like, oh, but through just being through campus and having classes, and some over, towards the business college, I literally um would bump into him, and pretty much anytime I bumped into him, always, little conversation in passing, whatever, and would ask how classes are going, this and that, and just, conversations. And it would, like I said, just couldn't have been more personable. And on the football field, I mean, if you're at ASU at the time or went to ASU games during that time, like obviously a lot of lifelong season ticket holders have done, you loved watching Pat Tillman play. And I mean, the Devils teams, and just again, you're like, man, he might not be the biggest guy, but playing the linebacker position, and you're figuring, well, if he goes, if he plays in the next level, what you think a lot, I always, I thought he could. Again, of course, you want to think everybody from your college team can, but no, but that being said, like I'm like, oh, it's gonna follow in footsteps um of guys that have played linebacker at ASU, that position in college, but moved back to safety just because. And again, not that you can't stop the run, but being down, in the box. But the way he played, I mean, had his longer hair, the reckless abandon, and like people have said, may have not been the biggest guy on the field, but he definitely played very big and was just the leader of that defense. And his former teammate, obviously having spoke to Jake Plummer on this show, and um he's got a pickleball event coming up, by the way. Um, but just in his teammates that were around him and coaches, like just his infectious personality and just his I guess for lack of a better cliche, just grab the bull by the horns view of life, and um the passion he had for whatever he was doing, and his friends and family, and obviously his family and friends, I should say, and just what he was doing. But watching him play, I mean, you could just tell like that is, a player that just gets it. And from that standpoint, man, it's just again, it's awesome because you get so many people in life that, again, not that they're not passionate about things, but yeah, if you have a plan, and yeah, the plan can always shift. But the way I say that, because the way Pat Tillman obviously played football, and the just the attitude of you're not gonna redshirt me. And it was just it's just like I said, people that knew him a lot better than I did would, when you hear these stories and you just hear, it's great to just obviously keep his tradition and memory going. And the Tillman statue, obviously inside Mountain America Stadium, Sun Devil Stadium, it's the players and the team walking out past it, and it's just always there. And for obviously the sadness and the unfortunate of what happened after Pat Tillman, again, turns down his multi-million dollar deal, and goes into the army. And after 9/11, and you, like, again, you hear it in the statement there, but coming out to that, it is sad that he's obviously gone way before his time. um but having Tillman as, like, the walking, as the players walk onto the field past that, and like Pat Tillman, I say it not trying to sound superhero or anything, but just the epitome of just Sun Devil football and what it should be in the statue and its meaning, and like the protector of you know just like Pat Tillman, like the protector of Sun Devil football. Like it just, you couldn't, again, the roller coaster, again, his family. And again, if you ever saw the I guess you could say the documentary on what happened, and everything, which is just it's sad. You hear that he passed away, then the unfortunate thing of being friendly fire, and it comes out, and just what the obviously the family first and foremost had to go through is just, it's terrible. And Jake Plummer said something after, because he was in town and played it on the show when uh Coach Dillingham, Coach Regal had spoke, but Coach Regal, before he received the Arizona Football Foundation, the Distinguished Award, the Frank Kush Distinguished Award. Um, but Jake Plummer had swung by, and he was there, so he sat down, and he was talking, and you know I had asked him afterwards if he was going to be at Pat's Run this weekend, and he said, and he had an event that came up, and and he goes, yeah, I almost thought about staying for Pat's run and then going down late. But he goes, I can just the way he said it, he goes, I can just hear Pat echoing, saying, "What are you doing? You got your stuff to do it, and come back, afterwards." It's paraphrase like that. That's basically how Jake Plummer said it. Paraphrasing a little bit, but Pat Tillman, you know, like I said, the way his view on the way he wanted to live life, and I mean, like I said, it's just a shock to me. Yeah, I mean, well, obviously to a lot of people, a lot of Sun Devil Nation when you get the news, it breaks, and I remember watching Sports Center, and I'm like, what? So yeah, it's you think of Veterans Day and Memorial Day, obviously to honor our armed service members, men and women of the armed services, and you know current and past, and those that have sacrificed for us. And Pat Tillman did that. And the one thing I get from people, and he's going to do thing, and it's not going to be like you said. He didn't want to be registered to he wanted to stick to you have a plan, you have a vision, and you have a drive, and it's it's living life without can you say you live in it without regrets. And he, like I said, I mean, he was going to do you know when people say beating to your own drum, well, Pat Tillman, for people that knew him, and when I hear throughout the years when I've got to hear more and more stories, it's just, again, it's like wow. um and I remember a few years back when I was doing radio, and I had former coach, ASU offensive line coach, Dan Cazzetto on, and he, granted, Tillman played linebacker, as we all know, but just talking about when you make a run to the Rose Bowl on a team, and you're going to have personalities, but leaders and guys that, and he said, yeah, I mean, the we were talking about, just I was asking about the infectiousness, of Pat Tillman, and he said he just, he was a guy that yeah, is his teammates loved him, but and respected him, but he loved and respected his teammates, and just wanted to get the most out of everything. And and on the football field, and he would just like there was, I mean, there obviously some probably feistiness, as we know there can be on a field, especially in practice and stuff like that. But man, just absolutely awesome, absolutely awesome, and couldn't be more like just the person that he was. When you hear these stories, and again, people say, oh, but you hear them from many and all that came across, like you said, even in biggest or smallest ways. And um it's like I said, Pat's run a phenomenal event, and the ASU Foundation, or the Tillman Foundation, um, just that does a phenomenal job with the Tillman Scholars, as we talk about that. And it's one of those things where man, I just you love the work that they do. And I mean, awarding the scholarships they do, and these young men and women that have gotten to go, that are going to college, and and if they're serving as well too. It's just the Tillman Foundation does so much and a lot. And I know that like I said, Doug Tamaro, who's been a big part of it, and obviously got to been at ASU for a while. And I mean, again, efforting, we will get him on the show because there is going to be many great stories, and many that we won't get to, probably. But yeah, I mean, him just being around, Pat Tillman, and then you get to be a part of the foundation and just keep pushing it, building it, pushing it forward and forward. That is what Pat Tillman, you know, like meant to people. That he built those relationships, and that's the thing. If he's going to be a friend of yours, he's not going to obviously he's not going to be, half in, half out. And that was the, type of person that he was. So I just, again, love when I hear the stories and just listen and, to be a part of it. But yes, I do have more. On that. So going to step aside real quick on the eve of Tillman's run, on the eve of Pat's run. But going to step aside real quick on more Pat Tillman stories. If you have anything, hit me up in the comments. And if you do hit me up in the comments and you have something shared, I can bring you on. You can come on. It is a Pat Tillman speaking fest. So please, but hit me up in the comments, and we can go from there. But yeah, I'm gonna step aside real quick, remembering more of Pat Tillman on the eve of Tillman's run Pat's run when we get back here on Pitchfork Lunch.
KSRN has the inside track on all things sports, with topics and opinions from former players and local personalities. Catch 15-year NFL veteran Ed Smith and Jay Adams on Easy Sports Talk every Saturday.
Unfortunately, with this back and these knees, I don't quite have that ability, or at least I use.
Are you good?
For all things Arizona Cardinals, tune in Monday nights with Casual E and Sean McConnell.
Bird Gang, I know it's another tough loss, but keep encouraging. We miss you, BA.
And now you can exclusively listen to former Arizona Cardinal Jeremy Bridges on his show, JB and Benny Blue Review.
Exactly.
Don't be dumb.
Sending a message out to the world.
Always relaying that message. Don't be dumb.
Yes, your guy, Benny Blue, comedian extraordinaire.
Exclusively on KSRN, Casual Sports Radio Network.
This is the sound of a racing heart. It's beating a little faster because it belongs to a young child. But this child isn't in the middle of a close soccer game or playing with her puppy in the yard. Her heart is racing because she's just been told she has to move foster homes again. Change a child's story. There's a child waiting for a volunteer like you. Learn how you can help at casaforchildren.org. This is
Got a big painting project you've been putting off because you don't think you can afford it? Well, it's time to call the team at Customer First Solutions. Customer First is your one-stop shop for all home repairs, from full interior and exterior painting to handyman services, drywall repair, electrical, and plumbing. Customer First has the most competitive prices in the Valley. Your flat rate quote is based on the square footage of your home, and that includes wall repair. All Customer First technicians are licensed, bonded, and fully background checked for your assurance. Call or text Customer First Solutions at 480-877-0255 for your free quote. Customer First Solutions, where our customers and their homes are our first priority. Got a big painting project you've been putting on?
KSRN has the inside track on all things sports, with topics and opinions from former players and local personalities. Catch 15-year NFL veteran Ed Smith and Jay Adams on Easy Sports Talk every Saturday.
Unfortunately, with this back and these knees, I don't quite have that ability, or at least I use.
Are you good?
For all things Arizona Cardinals, tune in Monday nights with Casual E and Sean McConnell.
Bird gang, I know it's another tough loss, but keep encouraged. We miss you, BA.
And now you can exclusively listen to former Arizona Cardinal Jeremy Bridges on his show, JB and Benny Blue Review.
Exactly.
Don't be dumb.
Sending a message out to the world.
Always relay that message. Don't be dumb.
Yes, your guy, Benny Blue, comedian extraordinaire.
Exclusively on KSRN, Casual Sports Radio Network. KSRN has the inside track on.
You are listening to the best internet radio station on the web, KSRN, Arizona.
Yes, for those of you listening on KSRN, you are listening on the greatest internet radio station on the web, the, Casual Sports Radio Network. I am Michael Caratanudo at Diablo00 on X, the artist formerly known as Twitter. Catch Pitchfork Lunch live there every day, Monday through Friday, 12 to 1. My IG, michael.caratanudo.5. The YouTube channel, it's at, on YouTube, but it's M as in Michael, V as in Victory, C as in Champ, 005, at MVC005 on YouTube, and subscribe. Yes, subscribe away as again, you've missed a ton, so subscribe away. And of course, on the Casual Sports Radio Network, again, you go to www.ksrnaz.com. Bam, Monday through Friday, 12 to 1. Click listen live, hit play, bam, Pitchfork Lunch, go all around Sun Devil Nation. And on the eve of Pat's run, we honor Pat Tillman, or share Pat Tillman, honor Pat Tillman every day. But I'm sharing again. I love hearing, like I said, with teammates, former teammates and people that'll be out, everybody that's, out at the run, and how much it's grown. And it's just, it's awesome. But yes, speaking of the Tillman statue, for those listening on KSRN, the game. But yeah, I love statue, and right there. So yeah, it's. Doing okay, sorry about that, but yeah, the statue, love the statue, obviously, of Tillman. This is perfect. And I talk about it, not that Tillman wouldn't have had a statue at ASU, depending on what he did, but the circumstances and just everything lines up for it to be it's the perfect thing. Like Jake Plummer, like I said, they meet at ASU in college, and Tillman's here, and then Plummer gets drafted by the Cardinals, and then Tillman becomes his teammate there again with the Cardinals. And, just to always hear Jake Plummer, talk about, memories and time with, Pat, and, even with his family. Um, it's one of those things where, man, you love hearing the stories. I mean, just absolutely love hearing it. And like I said, to be around Pat, and I will share the more stories after. Like I said, I met him. One of my friends in the dorm, she had went to the same high school, and he knew some of the same people, and she just happened to be walking with him. And she introduced me to him, and then, like I said, anytime I saw him after that, conversation, how are you? And so fast forward to the next season, because I met him, it would have been it was in the spring, so after my freshman year, obviously, during my freshman year of the spring. But so fast forward to that fall, and my parents, came to a game for Parents Weekend, and so we end up after the game, we meet up, and then we went and got some pizza. I'm like, oh, and Dad's like, yeah, I guess slice. A lot of people go here, but so we went over, and then so I'm in line. I look over, and I saw some of the guys um, from the football team, like, were sitting up top, and I said, oh yeah, I guess some of them came over here too. And so we're in line. I'm just talking. Mom and Dad and I are talking, and so all of a sudden I hear he's like, oh, hey Mike, how's it going? And I was like, oh, and I turn around and there's Pat Tillman. And so we're sitting there, and I'm talking to him, and so then I introduce him to my mom and dad, and so meets him, and he's talking, and so just again talking to my parents. And people say, like, when you tell a story, it's like, oh, it's like you make it like, no, I'm not making it sound like not that I was shocked knowing him, but I'm just, you're there. And so, but yeah, talk to, my parents for a little while, and talking to me, and we were just, sitting there talking. Then he went over to the, up to where, ordered his stuff up to where, they were going. And it was just, again, it was so, like I said, just chilling there, talking. Like I said, and my dad were talking, and it's just, anytime I saw him after that, which is, again, like I said, not a ton, but he'd ask, oh, he's like, oh, how are your parents doing, and stuff like that. And, it just, you always, again, I think, anybody just in general, you appreciate conversations with, you know, friends, and, but people, and then, you see somebody, and it's just, you know, obviously, remembering stuff like that. But it was always, like I said, very, very cool, and just, could have been, like I said, engaging. And, some people see night after a game, which they did win that night. But after a game, but again, started the conversation, engaging. And like I said, I always appreciated anytime I saw him, you know, little conversation here and there. And I, like I said, I love even more how, hearing from guys like, former teammate, like a Jake Plummer, you know, that was around him and that knew him. And I mean, you even talked to Steve Campbell. I remember talking to, Steve Campbell a while back, and, he just said, he goes, for other stories, you might have to ask some of those other guys. But, I mean, it's just, the memories of, how, Pat was with everybody. And, that just, like I said, engaging and caring person. And it's, you feel obviously for, his family, his, um, and everything that they, went through. And one of his best quotes, guys, and oh man, I always share this, but one of Tillman's, um, I mean, one of my favorite quotes of, he was quoted saying this. And again, it's absolutely awesome. He goes, to err on the side of passion is human and right, and the only way I'll live. And I mean, that was Pat Tillman. um Um, um, so I love, like I said, I love that quote. Um, I mean, gosh, I remember the Rose Bowl year, and it's just that season was, the season before was a little bit, middle of the road, a little tough for ASU, but man, that Rose Bowl season, what they were able to do, and it just, I mean, and him being one of, the team captains, it's that season, like I said, I mean, that whole team, but just, oh man, the plays, and you guys know me again. Even back then, to me, it was all about the defense. So that being said, not all about the defense, but yes, I leaned towards the defensive side of the ball. But yeah, I mean, by the way, his birthday is November 6th, just in case any of you were wondering. Um, Again, very close to Veterans Day, so um, but he was the eldest of his he had two other brothers, so the eldest of three boys. Um, and if you look, because you look at the foundation page, and I have this in my notes, and I wanted to like say this to you guys, it's just um, it says he was a caring and protective brother and a natural leader with a tendency to push limits in life, the classroom, and on the field. Um, um, And I love, if you look to, because if you like looking through the Tillman Foundation and you look at the story, sorry, this is one of the part of my notes that I absolutely love. And it says, what Pat lacked in maybe physical size, he more than made up for in intensity as a linebacker. And yes, like I said earlier, anyone that saw Tillman play, um, again, like understanding what the defense needs to do, but not being denied, getting, making tackles, and you're gonna go make tackles, and you're gonna get your helmet up in there, like coaches say, and like I've heard coaches say and players do, but I mean, yeah, the '97 Rose Bowl. I mean, '96. Is what, again, when you look at the football memories and like what he did, but I mean, as a person, it mirrored how he was as a person. And yes, no, he wasn't like going out to people, I'm sure, in classrooms and dropping them and tackling them. Yes, but I mean, just again, that that passion that he had and everything. It's you know um Yeah, I led ASU to the '97 Rose Bowl after an undefeated season. He earned three consecutive selections to the Pac-10 All-Academic Football Team, a first-team academic All-American honor, as well as the NCAA's postgraduate scholarship for academic and athletic excellence. So, yeah, I mean, um, and he did have, like I said, it was a BS, a Bachelor of Science in Marketing, graduating summa cum laude from ASU's prestigious W.P. Carey School of Business in 3.5 years, guys. So, yeah, don't need the red shirt. Graduated in 3.5 years. And then, like I said, he was a seventh round draft pick of the. And a story they did, and I thought about this too when I was looking at notes, guys. A story they did years ago was like when he first got drafted by, or when he was drafted by the Cardinals, and having success, drafted in the seventh round in '98. um a lot of people doubted his ability to deliver as a starter on the Cardinals' opening day roster. He answered that skepticism by becoming the team's starting safety and broke the franchise record for tackles in 2000 with 224. Again, telling him he couldn't do something and the way he worked, like, yeah, you can always grade out measurables, but there's no measurable of like heart, and you have an IQ for the game, and you're going to get in there and make plays. Well, that's what he did, and his success not going to his head, or break his principles. He still drove to the game in the same beat up truck he had in college. He had no cell phone. He chose to read miraculously and develop, debate, and discuss his ideas with eager listeners, family and friends. And in the off season, he would do marathons and half Ironman triathlons, and all of this, pursuing a master's degree in history from ASU. He volunteered, Boys and Girls Club, the March of Dimes, and read and talked to students in schools across, the Valley. And like I said, it's just a little bit of a stroke of how he lived life, everything that he did. And man, you just can't, it's like I said, it's a phenomenal legacy. It ended way before it should have. But yeah, to support, the Tillman Foundation and the Tillman Scholars, like it's, it's, it's phenomenal. And then the Tillman Scholarship, they're military service members, veterans, and spouses, that have a high potential for impact, as demonstrated through a proven track record of leadership. Again, what does that scream? Obviously, Pat Tillman. It says the continued pursuit of education and the commitment of their resources to service beyond self. And guys, that was Pat Tillman. And it's just, people, you get electrified, the plays on the field, and, making big plays, and, celebrating with his teammates, and, offense making plays, and just being, in that realm. And then, but being, like you said, in a natural leader. Bruce Snyder, talked about it, years later. And, Dave McGinnis was a Cardinals coach at the time, and, saw, when Pat Tillman gave that interview, he just said, when he, came in and said, the contract, about to sign a contract extension. And then he said, him and his brother were going in the Army, and they did. And it's just, again, that sense of, serving something bigger, after 9/11. And well, yeah, he did it after 9/11. That was, his vision on, um, Marie Tillman, who they were, married. You look at the board of the foundation board and staff. Marie Tillman, Chris Hart, Ian Sachs, May Cortese, Brett Funk, Alex Garwood, Benjamin Hill, Joe Shenton. Look, there's a lot that goes into this. Amber Mankey is a director, John Svoboda, Christine Wilkinson, Michael Bidwell's director emeritus, Joe Brown and Lazar Raynal. But I mean, it goes on. I mean, the staff, Dr. Catherine Steele, who actually I think was out at football practice yesterday. Scott Coleman, Rob Falk, who was out at football practice yesterday as well. Michelle Martin, uh, Matt Nygaard, Brandon Underwood, Zach Bell, all have these roles, and it goes on. I mean, Anna Burke, Tina Bruning, Kara Hammer Campbell, Janny Haynes, Kelsey Lentz. I mean, there's so many avenues. And Nora McNamara, Sophia McKentry, Neil Miley, Sarah Minton, Kathy O'Neill, Sarah Pevler, Ivy Ritchie, Sean Ryan, and Jackie Stuckert. I mean, it's a huge, it's a village. But, it takes a village, I always say, right? But it's one of those things where, yeah, I mean, like hats off to all these people. I mean, Marie Tillman, Shenton, she's a chair and co-founder. Just but giving back to, again, these scholars and service members, and it's yeah, I mean, it's just, again, it's awesome. It is phenomenal, and it's and then the Pats run, the race committee: Christina Hunley, Mark Zimmer, Perry Edinger, Amy Jo Overland, Colleen Hayes, Donnie Colson, Karen Conway, Kim Phillips, Marco Valenti, Marcy Felicia, Mary Turnberg, Sandy Flynn, Shay Mahoney, Susan Brown, Tom Duty, and Vicky Florelli Starkovich. So I mean, that's your Pats Run race committee. Like, it's just, again, it's phenomenal. But yeah, I mean, it's like I said, absolutely phenomenal. And it says our mission is to unite and empower remarkable military service members, veterans, and spouses as the next generation of public and private sector leaders committed to service beyond self. Again, Pat Tillman's message, absolutely phenomenal. But like I said, unfortunately, I will not be at Tillman's. I won't be participating in Tillman's run. I'm hoping to get out there. But yes, it is. But all year, I mean, just throughout the years, to support, and again, Pat Tillman, phenomenal human being that lived the life to the fullest. Had his vision. Again, I mean, graduated 3.5 years with a 3.8 GPA, and it just, yeah, phenomenal. Again, phenomenal. And his service, all military, obviously current military service members, veterans, family members, because again, families, they're sacrificing as well too, guys. We all know this. We all need to understand that. But the Tillman Foundation does a phenomenal job. The Tillman statue will always keep. I love, and I've said this to you guys a million times, I absolutely love when there's events in the stadium, and Fan Fest is coming up on the 25th. But when you hear, and even after Pat's run, but you hear kids, and even when I'm at the stadium for games, and you hear they see the statue, and down on the field, and they ask, oh, who's that statue of, or why is that statue here? And it's just, again, the legacy and the memory of Pat Tillman always living on and echoing in eternity. Like I said, time ended too short. the passion and his tradition and legacy live on, and it's so great when you can pass that down to a younger generation, and you grow up understanding it and seeing it and learning the story and everything. It's just phenomenal to ASU, phenomenal to, well, I mean, obviously the Tillman Foundation, but phenomenal to ASU. I mean, that was back when Coach Graham, was here, and he was a big advocate of that statue going up. So, as were many others, not just Coach Graham, but I mean, Coach Graham was for that. So, hey, everybody, have a phenomenal weekend. Baseball is in Cincinnati. Softball is in Utah. Water polo is in Southern Cal. They're at USC. And I want to say women's lacrosse is in Southern California as well. So yes, it'll be a busy weekend, and then obviously Pat's run tomorrow. If you're going to be out there, again, hit me up at Diablo00. Send me some pictures. We'll put them up on the show. Send me some stuff, or even to my IG, michael.carrington.5, but hit me up on the X at Diablo00. But Pat's run tomorrow. Again, it's like I said, it was an honor to know somebody like that, and like to see him do it was wow. And then yeah, it's just lived the life the way he wanted to, and went and served and to the higher calling. So we will end on that. Have a phenomenal weekend. Thank you, Vetch. Thank you, service members. Thank you, veterans. Thank you, families. And for the great Pat Tillman, we will always be indebted and grateful for.
My great-grandfather was at Pearl Harbor, and a lot of my family has given up, has gone and fought in wars, and I really haven't done a damn thing as far as laying myself on the line like that. And so I have a great deal of respect for those that have, and what the flag stands for.
I went to Arizona State. Right. I'm a Sun Devil, man.
The 27-yard line. That's a great call, too. Blaine Baker, Plummer will put it up, throws over the middle. Touchdown. Quick flag.
That's away. Trying to center off with Eckerly, and he just missed the net. O'Reilly with the shot. Ford down. He scored.
For a month, now with the lead, they're getting a little wobbly. Philadelphia, they won't get him! Wow!
Edwards pulls up and buries the flag!
Shot for